Either of you like to read?
Sure. What do you got? Thank you.
How to actually abolish abortion, how to end it, and what the Bible says. And you like to read, sir?
Sure.
For readers, voracious readers, that tells like basically pro-life and abolition, and let's look at the Bible, what the Bible says, and because that's what we should have been doing all along,
Mm-hmm.
and why this continues, and that and hear me out on this. If someone comes in, I'll go try to reach them, but hear me out, because this may be hard to understand, or like this doesn't make sense. But the pro-life movement, the leaders, politicians, and groups, not all the individuals, they are keeping this going because they refuse to abolish this evil. They've had bills that would abolish abortion put before them. Many states, including Kansas, although we haven't got as far in this state, but Texas, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And how do the pro-life Republicans, what do they do with that every time? Can you guess?
I think what you said earlier, that oftentimes they'll put those limits on.
Well, they kill the abolition bill, the bill that would actually shut these places down and make it illegal to murder a baby, and they instead go for the pro-life bill that regulates it, that says, well, you can murder your baby once you meet this criteria: 20 weeks, heartbeat, the baby can feel pain, and they refuse to abolish it every time, and they never give any biblical reasons why. It's like, well, this is what the Bible says. It's like, no, this won't survive the Supreme Court or any court or judge. It's like, well, how do you know if you don't try? And so that's why I left the pro-life movement years ago. And again, I'm not saying, like, there are a lot of individuals like I was who they actually want this to end. They just so I mean, there are a lot of individuals that in the pro-life movement that don't know these things. So that's why I tell them. And because it's like I didn't know what was going on years ago, as far as that there are actually pro-life groups and politicians and leaders that oppose abolishing this. I thought that's what they wanted to do, right? Makes sense. And I mean, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's like those, when I tell those out of these death camps and who agree, yeah, that this is murder and we need to stop it, when I tell them these things, they're shocked. It's like, why would a pro-life politician and a pro-life group oppose abolition? That doesn't make sense. You're right, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Until you see, when they give their reasons. One of the big reasons, actually the biggest reason why they give for not wanting to abolish abortion is we don't want to, once it's criminalized, we don't want to punish the moms, any of them. Not talking about those who are victims of human trafficking or they're being dragged in there against their will. No, I'm talking about those who, just like this woman, was cursing me out and F-bomb after F-bomb, that some would say, I'd murder my baby tomorrow if I got pregnant. Talking about that, the pro-life movement believes that every mother who murders her baby is a victim. And those who've been out here for even a short time, they know these aren't victims, these are murderers. Now there are some that come in that they don't want to do it. They're being, again, forced or encouraged, but most of them, they're not. I don't see them being dragged in, their arm. I don't see them having a gun point to their head. They're not. It's not like China under the one-child policy where they're literally kidnapped, held down against their will, screaming, "Don't kill my baby," and then they've murdered their baby.
Right.
That's not happening, at least yet. So those are victims. But here, it's the pro-life movement believes every mother, everyone, is a victim that murders their baby, no matter how vile and wicked they are. They can say, I've murdered 5 babies and I'd do it again. I've heard them say that to me. So that's why that's the biggest reason they give to kill these bills, is we don't want to punish the murderers. Now, what does the Bible say about that? In Proverbs, God says it's an abomination to show partiality to the wicked, in this case the murderous mom, and to condemn the righteous, the baby in her womb who's committed no crime. And so what the pro-life movement has done is doing exactly that, doing that which is an abomination before God, condemning the righteous, the innocent baby, and to tell them the murderous mom, you can murder as many babies as you want, and we'll give you a free pass every time. Now, they may not be thinking that's what we're saying, but that's basically the result of it. You're saying you can murder as many babies as you want, and we're not going to punish you. In fact, we're going to fight any efforts to punish you once it's criminalized. And to clarify, not saying that because I've been asked this question, are you saying that every mom who's murdered a baby the past 50 years is going to be sent to prison or put to death? No. What I am saying, what abolitionists are saying is that once this is criminalized, that every mom who murders her baby will be put on trial to determine whether she's guilty or not, or her level of guilt. And if she is a victim, that will be determined, and it's like, okay, you truly are a victim. You were forced to do this against your will. You did not want to do this, so you are a victim. But if they murder their baby with forethought, with malice and intent, they wanted to murder their baby, and they rejected all the offers of help, they're gonna receive a punishment, whether that's life in prison, the death penalty, whatever, just like we do for born people.
Absolutely.
You murder someone, you're going to get trial, and that will determine your level of guilt. That's what all we're saying. And the pro-life movement says no, they get to walk every time. And it's like, well, okay, you're saying that no crime has been committed, because it's like someone can go commit bank robbery. If we did criminalize bank robbery, and it's like, well, go ahead. Take all the money in the bank. You're not a criminal, you're a victim. But for some reason, when it comes to baby murder, we see it differently. Like when people are raped, I mean, she brought that up to me over here on the street. She sees that as evil, but she supports baby murder. She told me she did. And so, I mean, it's like we need to see this with the same kind of heinousness, even more heinousness than these other things that society sees as wrong and evil, rape. But we don't. We treat the murderers like victims, and therefore we say no crime has taken place. And if no crime has taken place, then what are we even doing out here? And I'm not saying like that everyone out here has that mindset.
Right.
What I'm saying is that my concern is that many do have that mindset that I used to have, because that was what the pro-life movement taught me. I didn't know any better. When I found out about this in 2008, I had no clue. I didn't know anything. I came out here like a clean slate. I knew nothing. And so I was taught all these things by the pro-life movement, and then I realized, wait a minute, this isn't biblical. I'm not saying everything they say is wrong, but all these things, it's keeping these places open, and that's why we even come out here, because they refuse to abolish abortion. And here and you're drinking from a fire hydrant right now. I understand that. So I appreciate you're bearing with me, but I'm doing this because I care about you. I love you, and I wish Christians had told me these things years before I found out, just by studying abolition. The abolition movement it's only like 12 years old of abortion.
I agree with you. I probably wouldn't, I haven't used your terminology.
Not yet.
But I agree with you in the sense that, 40 Days is a group that wants to end abortion. We want to do it through peaceful prayer, counseling, giving them other options to save their baby.
Yeah.
And to work with the mother for whatever decisions. What drove her decision to come here today? Maybe she felt that was her only last option. So that's why I'm here, is hoping that I can be the last person they see before they go in there and maybe change their mind. And if I can't change their mind, then I want to try to heal them.
At least you're a witness, all right? And
I'm a witness, and I want to heal them.
If I can't change your mind, at least I'm going to be a witness. What you're doing is evil, it's murder, and God says it's sin, and God saved me. I was a wicked, vile sinner. Now I'm a saint by his redeeming blood, and that can be you too. But I'm here to plead with you, don't do this to your child. And I'm only here because of Jesus Christ. And I told her that's why I'm here, because of Jesus Christ. Nothing else, no one else. And but let me also share this with you. Here in Kansas, I mean, I've been asked about this because it was big. It got defeated in August, the Value Them Both Amendment. I was in, now this you probably wouldn't know, because I'm not sure how many know this. I know because I was there and I heard it, I'm glad I heard it. I was at the March for Life in Topeka in January, and we were talking to pro-lifers, those who were there for the amendment, and just to tell them about abolition and about the amendment, what we saw wrong with it, and hoping that they'd be open to talking to us, and even if they disagreed, that they would at least listen. And many did listen, but what they said from that stage was revealing, and I hope that some in that audience heard it and like, what did she just say? One of the leaders, Kim Borchers, this is on YouTube. She said this twice to emphasize it. I can't quote her exactly, but basically the goal of value them both is not to abolish abortion. She said that twice. And what I was thinking was, I wonder how many people just heard that and like wondering, well, it's not to abolish abortion. What are we doing here? Why am I here? I thought that was the goal, was to abolish abortion. What are we doing then?
It's
and,
it's a first step. In what I heard was it's a first step to get the Constitution changed.
Yeah, that's what many said. So I understand why many supported it. I probably would have supported it years ago, before I left the pro-life movement, honestly. And so I'm not like finding fault with anyone who doesn't know, who's ignorant. Just they don't know. Because I had a couple of Christian friends I talked to on Sunday that they didn't know. They voted yes, and one of my preaching elders, he voted yes. And so but it's like no. Like I've asked many at these death camps and elsewhere, have you read the amendment? Because many haven't read it. It's not very long. It's not like a bill that's like 2,000 pages long.
Yeah,
that's in D.C.
Right.
And so, and I read carefully. I studied like the one paragraph. It would change the Kansas Constitution to say, what did it begin with? You might recall, regulation of abortion. That's what it began with. And the end of that paragraph, that it would change the Constitution to say the Kansas Constitution. It allowed for exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother, and it said it in a way that you could miss that if you didn't read it carefully, and because they're kind of crafty with their wording there. But let's replace the word abortion with rape, regulation of rape. How does that sound? How many Christians would have voted for that if that said regulation of rape?
Just reduce the amount of rape.
Right.
Yeah, it's like we're going to regulate, that guys can rape women, for 3-4 hours a day, but they got to cut it off at 10 p.m. whatever. Or they can rape, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., but you got to stop at 3 a.m. Who would support that? So we wouldn't support it if it was regulating rape. So why do we support it when it's regulating murder, baby murder, which is worse? So that's what I was trying to help Christians and Catholics to understand is, why are we supporting this? Is it because the pro-life movement's telling us to support it? Or is it because this is we read the Bible and this aligns with the Bible? Because this amendment, it would actually change the Kansas Constitution to regulate murder. Because like they were saying, well, the Kansas Supreme Court changed the Kansas Constitution in 2019 to allow unlimited murder. Well, it's like, well, but if you look at the Kansas Constitution, where does it say that? Are they saying that that's what it says? But or
they are saying that those 9 or however many justices there were, 7 justices interpreted it that way.
Interpreted it, so
it's not in there. You're right.
Exactly.
It's not in there.
So then that's what I pointed out was it's actually not in there. That's what they say it's in there, but they're just men, right? They're evil men. So we're literally trying to pass an amendment. The pro-lifers are trying to pass, and the Christians are trying to pass an amendment to change the Kansas Constitution to allow for murder when right now it doesn't. Who forget about what the Supreme Court justices say they're wrong. Just like the Supreme Court said, the federal Supreme Court said that the Constitution allows for baby murder. Doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't allow for it. It actually says no person shall be deprived of life without due process of law. So it's like, so what they're actually trying to do is, with the value of them both amendment was to put murder in the Kansas Constitution when it's not even there yet. And I think most of them didn't realize that. And I had to study, I had to read that again and again to finally let that click in my mind. They're literally working, putting forth the blood, sweat, and tears, walking door to door, and maybe probably making phone calls and emails. All this, they're doing all this, walking door to door in the heat of the sun, sweating. They're doing all this to put murder in the Kansas Constitution, and they have no idea. If that was me, I'd want to know right now. I'd want a Christian who loves me enough to tell me, even if they don't know if I'm going to listen or harden my heart and be like, I don't want to hear it, you're wrong, because that did happen. I'd want them to come alongside and tell me. And hopefully I'd be humble enough to say, are you serious? Let's look at the Bible. Let's see what it says, because this seems right, but okay, let me look at this again. I'm like, oh my, you're right, this does allow for murder. It regulates it. And it's going to put murder in the Kansas Constitution. So that's what I was telling them was, I'd want to know if I was wrong. I'd want those who love me enough to tell me the truth, and hopefully I'd be open to hear that. And I told Mark that as well, that this puts this will change the Kansas Constitution to allow for murder, baby murder. And it's like, I don't want that on my conscience. So I mean, I was asked, like, you know, well, you're going to side with the abortionist. No, actually, you're siding with the abortionist if you vote for it. And how many don't know that? And so it's a loving thing to tell people the truth, even if they don't want to hear it. Some are open, and I appreciate you being open to hear it, because this is not an easy thing to share with people that when they haven't heard these things. It's to hear, like I was telling Ben over there, that some are, because he was asking me like what are the pro-life organizations and individuals doing? Why are they opposing these efforts? And it's like some of them are just very proud. They've been doing this for decades, maybe their whole life, and they're too proud to admit they're wrong. And it's like Christians should be willing to admit they're wrong when it's proven that they're wrong, and or at least be open to, like, okay, you're saying I'm wrong. I'm not sure about that. Let's look at the Bible. What it says. If I'm wrong, I'll repent. If I'm not wrong, then one of us is going to have to change our mind on this. And so I mean, that's, again, you're drinking from a fire hydrant here. It's a lot of information, but there's people out here and at the Tiller death camp that are supporting efforts that are keeping this open, and they have no idea. I've told Mark that, and I think he's doing the same, and I hope I get to talk to him more about it, because I don't want those who truly want this to end to be wasting their time and their lives, when, like, doing the opposite of what they're trying to do, like supporting wicked pro-life politicians and organizations that want this to remain legal. And the way they've been going about it, it's going to keep it legal. Right? Kansas right now, we're a safe haven for baby murderers.
We are.
Right?
We are. I agree.
You know, I'm not sure about here, but at the Tiller death camp, most of the license plates are from Texas.
Yeah.
And some from Oklahoma.
We actually, this has been a very slow couple of weeks.
Here?
Uh-huh. Prior to just a couple of weeks ago, this parking lot was full of Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Tennessee, Missouri. So I don't know. We're in a lull right now over here, whether it's God's grace or not.
It hasn't been that busy
No?
since I've been here.
No, and most right now.
So is that Tiller clinic open?
Well, it's called Trust Women.
From what? Yeah, I call it Tiller's death camp because
I didn't even know that was still.
Yeah,
it's open.
It's been open since
from the Veterans Administration.
It's been open since April 2013.
It's strictly abortion now.
It's and they do sex change operations there too, I believe.
Yes, that's why I hear they've started.
And sex change operations, stuff with hormones, and they're busy Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday not as busy, but still killing babies, murdering babies, from what Mark told me. Thursday and Friday they're busy, and they were busy on the weekends. But recently, this month, Mark said that they have not been open.
This has been open periodically on Saturday mornings. It wasn't open this past Saturday when I was here praying, no.
What about Sundays?
I've never seen anybody on Sundays.
They're open sometimes on Sundays.
Really?
I've been out there on Sundays because I'd come out there, be by myself, and I called Mark, say they're open on Sunday, and he'd be shocked. And so it's like, I want to go be with my brethren, but I can't just abandon my neighbors to death here, because where are the Christians? You know, oh, they're at church. Well, but someone's got to be here. Someone's got to be here, so I'll be here. But yeah, they not this past Sunday, but they've been open on Sundays before. And so I mean, it's these are sobering things to think about. And
I appreciate your perspective. I'll appreciate the book. I'm going to look at that. Yeah. I'm born into abortion, so I'm with you. I would just like to do it peacefully through prayer, offering options, which is a little bit different. You're offering the gospel right along with it. I'm not as comfortable doing that.
Oh, I'm not comfortable doing it. I'm not comfortable sharing the gospel with people, but I have to, because
I mean, that's great. Yeah. I wish I was more comfortable, but I'm not as versed. So. Well,
you gotta know the gospel first, and a lot of people, you know, say that I'm a Christian, but they don't know the gospel. I
know it, but I don't think I can share it yet.
Well, you just gotta practice, and I started years ago, and I wasn't comfortable, and I'm not comfortable being out here, but it's like my main goal out here is not to rescue babies; it's to glorify God. That's why I come here, is to rescue children from death, or to speak up for them. I don't rescue anyone; God does the rescuing. He uses His instruments. But because it's like, even if a baby is saved from murder, I don't want their parents to go to hell. So I give them the gospel, and I plead for their babies' lives. And because if babies are saved but the parents die and go to hell, we gotta, as a Christian, I care about their souls and about their babies' lives.
Thank you for caring about their souls. I
Well,
appreciate
thank the good Lord, because He put that in me. Because
I didn't go take my jacket off. I'm burning up. It's hot out here.
I didn't grow up doing any of this. God saved me later in life and gave me a love for my neighbor, and to even to come to places like this where my neighbors are most in need. And so it's a lot to think about what I shared with you.
It is a lot to think about.
And that book.
And now I'm going to be a little more critical when I hear people talk as to what exactly they're asking.
That's good. And I want to be careful here, like with KFL, but because I haven't talked to them. I've talked to them a little bit, but when you get the mailings from KFL, Kansas for Life, or any other pro-life organization or politician, look at what they're saying. Are they trying to abolish abortion or just regulate it? Right now, Derek Schmidt's running for governor. Don't know if he's going to get it, but my question is, okay, does he actually want to abolish abortion? If he's like most pro-lifers, the answer is no. Or regulate it just like everyone else does. Then I wouldn't vote for him. It's like, well, you want Lori Kelly to continue on? Well, no, but the problem is, if you vote for the lesser of two evils, then that's what you get. You're going to get evil. And we need men who fear God. And that's how this is going to stop. We need men who fear God, who will enact righteous, godly policies, and not vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, this person is not as bad. Well, if they're bad, they're bad. And but yeah, it's I don't know if any of you support KFL or Kansas for Life, but
I'm pretty much sticking with 40 days at
where it
this
is
point.
Okay. But like, just I asked 40 Days for Life. I'm not. Is that big here in Wichita?
We have only one campaign, and it's here at Glen Pier.
Okay.
There's a campaign in Overland Park, but it's an international group.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I asked them 2 questions. I encourage you to ask them. One, what is what's our position, since you're a part of it? What's our position on abolishing abortion in Kansas? And
all for it. I can just tell you that.
Well, that's good. And then second question, what's our position on once abortion is criminalized, to punish the moms for murdering their babies?
I don't know that. That's not a question I've asked.
I'd encourage you to ask them that, and you might be surprised to hear their answer. I mean, if they would agree like that, yeah, we should punish murderers once it's criminalized, then they'll be one of the few that pro-life organizations that do agree with that, because most of them, like national right.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, murder's against the law.
Born murder. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me to shoot you is against the law.
Yeah. Yes,
but people still shoot each other.
But not as common as it would be if it was legal to do it.
So if we abolish abortion by law,
yeah.
History shows even when it was against the law, people still got abortions. So
yeah.
I don't. So you're an all or none. Either be accuse the mother of murder, put her in jail if that's versus a complete legality of abortion. Somewhere in the middle is kind of where most pro-lifers are.
Yeah.
So like Schmidt, he's against abortion, but you're saying you wouldn't vote for him because he's not completely in line with your view of punish the mother for murder.
Well, I'd have to know more about him, but if he's a typical pro-lifer, then he'll be in there for 8 years and do absolutely nothing to abolish abortion.
See,
won't do anything.
I'm just going to say, you lump pro-life altogether.
Well, that's why I'm trying to be careful with my language. Yeah. If he's like most pro-life Republicans, politicians, not all, but most, then because that's what most of them do is they'll be in office for 4 or 8 years and nothing will change. Babies will be murdered. They'll leave office. Babies are being murdered, and there are a few pro-life politicians in this country that I've seen that have become abolition-minded, that have said, yeah, this is right, and they look at the Bible, and one of them was Joseph Silk in Oklahoma. Christians sat down with him, and 10 minutes later, he's like, I'm an abolitionist. Yeah, we should abolish it. We should abolish it. I think that's in that booklet. He went from being a pro-lifer to an abolitionist. This is what the Bible says, just in just a few minutes, and he changed his heartbeat bill to an abolition bill, and you should have seen how the pro-life Republicans responded to that. They hated his guts. Okay. And why?
But it passed.
What?
It passed.
Well, the heartbeat bill, I think. Well, he changed it to an abolition bill, and it was they killed it.
Okay. I thought they passed it.
Well, not the abolition bill.
Oh, okay.
The bill that would actually end it. But yeah, once when you criminalize an act, people will still do it, but not nearly as frequently because bank robbery is illegal, but people still rob banks.
I see your point from a Christian standpoint is you don't compromise on biblical truths.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
and that's what we've been doing for 50 years is compromising.
I'm going to put my
and
jacket up and I'm going to pray because that's why I came, was to pray. So thank
yes,
you very
ma'am.
much. I'm glad I
And
information.
please tell me your name again.
Sue.
Miss Sue.
And I'm in charge of the 40 Days for Life campaign.
Oh, you are? Okay, you're
So
the
I'm
manager.
here most days.
Okay.
I'm a coordinator.
Coordinator, okay.
Volunteer.
Okay.
So I'm here most days. Okay?
Well, thank you for hearing me out, Miss Sue.
Sure, not a problem.
And your name?
Steve.
Steve. Oh, you told me. Okay, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks just to read this.
Thanks for listening.